Hello, everyone. We are live again on YouTube and LinkedIn, bringing you another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into proven leadership ideas, game-changing strategies, and of course, the brilliant minds behind them. I'm Joseph Martens, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest. With us today is Antonio Marin. Antonio is the CIO of US MedEquip, a company that provides highest quality medical equipment to hospitals across the nation. He has won the CIO 100 award 2 times in a row, both this year and last year. Antonio, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today here. Excellent. Let's dive into your leadership journey. The topic is leadership, as you know, and you've had a very accomplished career as a leader of technologists and as a tech executive. I'm curious, when you reflect on your own journey, Antonio, what do you think are some of the reasons for the success that you've had?
Had a rocky start. I graduated from college, and my first work experience, I think, shaped 50% of my leadership style, and my second job probably shaped the second 50% of my leadership style, if that makes sense. So my first job coming out of college, software engineer, you have all this ideological thinking about what you're going to do in your career, how you're going to grow, everything you learn from school.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working for a fintech company here in Houston where I was so excited what I was doing, and my boss gave me a project. I finished that project early, and I went to his office and said, okay, Monday, you're going to start the next project. So I have Friday to get ready for that project.
Okay.
So I tried to be proactive, and I'm looking at the code of my future project. It was improving this system, and I found a bug. And I found this bug that had a significant financial impact into the company. So I called my boss and said, hey, I found this issue. It was significant enough. He called the president of the company.
Wow.
And in my innocence or naiveness as a college grad into the business world, I didn't realize that he was the one who wrote the software.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When the president of the company came, it wasn't a pleasant experience. And there were high voices, and I was petrified. I was completely petrified. My boss did not move a finger to help me, protect me, nothing. And through the whole process, it happened. It happened, and when we fixed the bug and we start really invoicing our customers what we're supposed to invoice them properly, some customers left the company, the services, and we had layoffs. And I remember walking to his office where he laid me off, and he was smiling. It was one of those experiences that first job, and I'm out on the street again. So
That's a horrific experience, right?
Well,
I mean,
what make it worse is that coming out of college, I've been married,
right, right.
and I have no money. Literally, we're barely.
Yeah.
And my wife went to pick me up. So she was in the cubicle next to me when the person was yelling at me. My boss
Okay.
actually pulled me out into his office, and my wife had to witness everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's always bad things, and there's always, after some bad thing happens, something good thing happens. So I'm looking for a job, and at this point, I don't care if it's software engineer, I don't care if it's help desk, I just need a job. And I came across the largest privately owned engineering company in the world.
Okay.
So I interviewed with them for a help desk position. And when we're in the interview, and this is something that shaped my life, and I'll tell you more about it as the story unfolds. But the director for the area asked me what salary I wanted. My salary in the previous fintech was very low. And I was like, I don't care, even lower than that. I just need a job. I want to work and I want to prove myself.
Yeah.
So I went to pick up my wife at work. We came back home. And that evening, that was a Friday as well. That evening, there was a FedEx envelope taped to the door of our apartment with a job offer. And the job offer was 50% more of what I was making the previous job. I was like, I opened that envelope, signed it right away. On Monday morning, when they opened offices around 7 o'clock in the morning, I think I was there at 6:30, just waiting for the door to open. I was like, they're not going to change their mind on me.
Wow.
And this director, he was a phenomenal manager. He knew how to motivate people. He knew he wanted to treat everybody the right way in order to perform. And it got to a point where my big break came when we had this big project that headquarters that were based in San Francisco at the time wanted us to do. I went to him and said, look, I know a better way to do this. And he told me, I'll give you 2 weeks with one condition. I'll run interference with one condition. And I was like, okay. He said, I want to make the last payment of my house. Basically, he asked me, don't get me fired.
Okay, now I get it. Yeah.
Now, in terms of opportunity, I turned around to him and said, okay, I have one condition for you. I want to make the first payment of my house. So we started this.
And it's not the same house, I take it, right? You're not trading a house there. Okay, got it. Thought that was maybe a property transaction involved at the same time.
So he let me run the project, and we were very successful. The project ran globally with this organization, and that opened the door. So I had somebody who believed in me, somebody who will take a risk on me and give me that chance. Even being in the help desk, I was able to do a project that really belonged to software engineering. Well, that opened the doors to software engineering. And when I was in software engineering, I had to deal with another manager, which is another reason why that's another part that I kept changing in how I think about treating employees. I had a bad experience with the first one, which is squeeze people, yell at them, treat them wrong, push them out. I have the other one, which is nurturing, give you opportunities, coach you, and then I end up with another manager. Well, as you know, companies behave in very interesting ways. When you are inside the company and you go from one position to another, the typical HR bands where you only get the 3% and things like that.
Right.
And I was training and I was working with software engineers who were actually, their salaries way higher. At that time, I had a baby boy who is my link to this company in many ways because he was born 1 pound and he spent 4.5 months in the neonatal ICU. And so I'm like, okay, I need to do something. As a father, I need to provide for my family. I went to my boss and said, look, I understand you cannot put me at the same level of the people who are coming from the outside. I get it. Can you help me out? He increased my salary a little bit, but not enough. So I looked for another job and working for another company in Houston. And when I went back to him and said, well, I appreciate what you did, but here's my resignation letter, he told me, Antonio, I couldn't match that offer. And I was like, a management role is about trust. And I told him, I can, in one of my lowest moments, ask you for something, and you didn't do what you were supposed to. So if you move 30 years into the future, first of all, I like the idea of giving people opportunity. I'm not going to open the door for them. I'm going to crack the door open, but I'm going to give them the tools to succeed. And you'll see who's going to kick the door open and go for it. The other thing is when I hire people, I don't like negotiating salaries. And the reason I don't like it is because I'm going to give them every single penny that I'm allowed to give them. Money should not be an issue for them to love where they are.
Okay.
I wanted to, and I told this to my team, I like them to be recruited by every company in the world. That means that they're trained properly. That means that they have the right skills, that they're staying with the moment and the technology. But I want them to stay because they love the place, because they love the environment. So if you can take the financial out, if you give them the right training and you give them the right opportunities, grass is not always greener somewhere else. And between what's happening now and there, I work for a company. The company I went to as a project manager after I left the engineering company, that also that was an interesting journey that put me on the leadership map. So I go to this company and they bought companies in South America. Nobody wanted to go to South America. So like, I'll go. That's what the job. That's it. I'll go. My first day on the job, internationally speaking, it was really funny and interesting. So we have a partner. We bought this company in Colombia. We have a partnership with a company from Venezuela, and us from the U.S. Many people did not speak English. Many people did not speak Spanish. So we're looking at a conference room of each other. It's like, okay, I call the American consulate and say, hey, do you have translators? It's like ordering pizza. And then, yeah, we have a few. Can you send 6? So I divided the teams. Everybody went to their groups. And that evening, we're in the hotel, at the bar, debriefing what happened in your group, what happened, what we're doing. And this gentleman showed up. He was the vice president of finance for the international division. Okay. I worked for local team, not for him. So he walks into the bar and says, like, who's this Antonio? And given my previous experience, like, oh my God, I'm fired. I stepped on so many toes, I'm fired. Yep. And I said, it's me. Who you work for? I gave the name of my manager. Not anymore. Now you report to me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like,
that's quite a different experience compared to the first story, right?
Well, yeah. So
my word.
I started working with him. I was the first person in IT for the international division. We bought other companies in South America, and most of these companies were state-owned companies. So there's a lot of employees that really they was using these companies to eliminate some of the deficiencies they had in the job market. When you become a private company, then you have to really have the right people in the right place at the right time. And we're going to do implementations of SAP across this organization. So it gets to the difficult time where you need to say who do you keep and who you don't keep, and you have to make that decision. But you have to do it in the most humane way. And this is one of the things that I'm the most proud of my career, because I've been there. I've been laid off. I know how you feel. You know? I always tell my team, when you hire somebody, they go out to dinner, they celebrate, right? When you have to lay them off, it is a very tough time. They're thinking about their bills, their children, if they have children, their car payment, anything, their whole life is disrupted. So you don't want to create disruption. You want to create nurture environments. So we were forced to reduce some people. Well, the great thing about IT is that a lot of people who are business savvy, because they were good in computers, they put it in IT. So with these people, I would knock on the door of the other team leaders, and I go like, we're going to do SAP. You need to take this and this person with you. And they were like, but we're trying to do this person. No, you don't understand. This person understands the business and understands technology. You need them in your area. So that was one way to protect my team. Some others decided to take the package that we offered. And we had 2 areas. There's the people who came to me and said, Antonio, I want to take the package. Normally, the people who take the package is the ones that have a plan or something, or the ones that are very good. Right. And that's when you start losing a lot of brain power. So those who wanted to go out and take the package, I asked them if they said they were going to start their own consulting company. So I said, okay, let's have a condition. I'll give you your package, but you need to sign your first contract with me.
That's a
So I'm
clever way to keep them. Okay, you're essentially keeping them, right?
also helping them because you start your consulting company backed by a US firm.
Right.
Is we have others that want to start their own business, like kind of like chauffeurs and driving around. Well, we hire them as our drivers. We're in the country, we use their services. And they could sell those services to other American companies, which serve them a lot.
Yep.
And then you have the people who wanted to learn English. I put them in contact with the consulate, and some of them got actually student visas in the US so they could learn English and go back to their countries, obviously trying to elevate themselves for the next job. And they were the ones who wanted to stay. If you have an reorganization like that, there's holes in the organization.
Yeah.
So you start working with them to see who's going to take the next space up.
Yeah.
And at the end of that journey, we have a few people who became CIOs in their own company, so they increased their careers to CIO. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit of what I learned with my director at the engineering company. You have to give people opportunities. They'll be willing to take the next step if you give them that space.
Yeah. That's a lot of profound experiences that you're sharing there, starting with your very early positions over to, my word, quite the difference in experience. I'd be curious to hear, Antonio, what was some advice that you received during all of these ups and downs? You must have had some people as trusted advisors or as mentors, people close to you. What advice did they give you to go through this, to handle the difficult times well and the ones where you've been on top with grace and not gloat or get carried away?
There's so many things that happen, but it starts earlier. My dad was a hardworking person. I come from a blue-collar family. My dad was selling flour to bakeries in Mexico, and for every dollar he made, 90 cents were commission. If you don't sell, you don't eat. Plain and simple. And he was able to get to support a family all the way. I came to study to the United States. My brother did his master's in New York, but that was very supported by the efforts of my dad. My mom was a woman with an incredible common sense and not afraid of anything. She will always be saying, you can do it, you can learn it, you go for it. So that helped me tremendously. Then in my professional career, having a support system like my wife has been having a person that you can talk to, compare all those things that are happening. I mean, she saw what happened to me on my first job.
Of course. And she was right in the next cubicle, right? If I got that,
She's been in the battlefield with me, so she knows where it goes, and she always been super encouraging. In terms of managers, in terms of people who, they always pointed about the good things. You always get to see the bad things. So I learned, and my daughter's got this bracelet that I really love. It's made out of plastic, like plastic bubbles, and there's one black bubble, and there's one bubble with water. The black bubble is supposed to be like the dirt from the lowest place on Earth, and the water is supposedly to be from the Himalayas, the highest place on Earth. Just to show you that you're never that down and you're never that high. You have to be in a balance.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
And so people listening to me, what I'm complaining about or what I'm going through, and telling me, Antonio, you're right, you're wrong, look at it this different way. So listening is probably the best. Self-value is incredibly important. It doesn't matter how down you are, you're still valuable. That somebody appreciates it or not, that's a different story. But your value doesn't change. And faith is an incredible part of it.
Okay.
And your support system, your wife, your children, your friends. I had a terrible experience interviewing not long ago. Actually, the year is 2019, so it's fairly close. We sold the company I was working for, so I'm in between jobs. And I got an interview with this company. They never turn on their cameras. We had 6 interviews. They invited me to go to the city where they were located at. And I'm coming from, uh, with my previous company winning the IDG Digital Edge Award 50, which was only given to 50 companies.
Mm-hmm.
So sold the company with a great exit. So I'm over the moon. I'm like, I can do this. My spirits are high. I go for this interview, fly to this place, show up to the meeting. This guy comes up and said, right out of the bat, you're not the main candidate. We just want to see how you look like in person.
What? What? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I mean, that sounds totally weird, Antonio.
You would think that somebody would be advised by HR or anything like that, but you know what?
That is strange. Okay.
If that is the kind of company you don't want to work at.
No, of course not. Yeah.
You need to then, I'm glad that we
Yeah.
were able to identify the difference in cultures.
Yeah.
That's not the right corporate culture for me.
Right.
So I was completely upset, and I called my wife, and we were gonna stay at a hotel that night because the next morning was the Houston Orby Awards,
Mm-hmm.
and I was one of the finalists representing WCA Waste, my previous company, and I don't want to go. I used to play tennis when I was young, and losing 2 matches in a row was not my idea.
Yeah.
So I decided, I told my wife, and the plane landed in Houston. I called her, and she's like, "Sorry, but we cannot cancel. It's already paid. We need to go."
Okay. Okay.
I said, "You know what? You're right. My friends are candidates as well. A lot of my friends are going to be there. It's time to celebrate my friends. Let's enjoy that morning. Let's enjoy the breakfast. Enjoy the ceremony." To my surprise, my name was called. I was like, Houston CIO 2019 of the year for the enterprise, for the corporate level. So back to that bracelet I'm telling you, you're never that low, you're never that high.
And you almost didn't go, right? And you almost didn't go.
Yeah. I was so disrupted by the whole thing, but
yeah.
it taught me a very, very good lesson. And in the sequence of events,
yeah.
Executive recruiter gave me his business card when I was walking out. I was in shock. And he gives me his business card. 2 years later, 2.5 years later, he called me for this job that I'm holding right now.
Wow. Okay.
So
wow.
Life is a series of events.
Amazing. Mm-hmm.
And again, if you listen, if you value yourself, if you have a good supporting system, there's no highs that are too high and there's no lows that are too low.
Yeah. Yeah. These are amazing points in the story. It makes me think of something that Steve Jobs said, right? You can only connect the dots looking back. And when you look at it now, it makes sense. It had to be that way. And I imagine at the time, it felt totally different.
Well, yes. No, it feels, although you say, I'm on my 14th job, which a lot of people. So, and I was telling this to my kids and to my daughter. My 2 daughters are married, and I talked to their husbands about things happen, right? And it's not how many times you fall; it's how many times you stand up.
Yep. Yep. No doubt.
I mean, you can stay down. You have to get up. You have to do it for your family. You have to do it for yourself.
Yep.
And you have to do it for the pleasure of winning.
Yep.
If that's your motivation, you have to go.
Yep. Yep. Amazing experiences in the past, Antonio. I'd love to take a look at where you are in your leadership journey right now. I'd be interested to know, what are you working on at the moment? Not in terms of projects, not in terms of the work that's going on, but in terms of your own development. What is something where you feel like, I want to put attention on that, I want to work on that, this is an area where I see growth for myself?
Oh my God. This is a continuous self-improvement process all the time. I've learned to be more patient.
Okay.
I've been more tempered, if you will, but I'm still not there. I have the fire inside, and I want everybody to be at the same intensity. So I'm learning to be understanding more things that are very valuable to me.
Uh-huh.
May not be as valuable to new generations. Uh, when you interview for a job, the first thing they ask you, what is more important, the job or family, right? If I interview 1,000 people today, I'm going to get family 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I grew up in an environment where if you don't have a job, you cannot take care of the family. I always put my job first because I needed to provide for them. I'm the worst example of work-life balance.
Okay.
And so what I'm learning is to regain that balance myself, and at the same time give that balance to my team members.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve it. It's the right.
Yeah.
But I come from an environment where, like, if you have to work 24 hours, you work 24 hours.
Yeah. And you do it for your family, right? Good point. It's not.
If you're on vacation, you answer your emails. I mean, that should not happen in the business environment. And what I love about the new generations is that they fight for I'm out, and that's great for their mental health, for their family health. I think that's fantastic. I wasn't built that way, so that's part of my own learning journey.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Now let's take a look at the future for a moment, Antonio. And the question is not about companies, it's not about positions, it's again about your leadership journey. If we were to talk again in a few years, what do you think would be different then about how you look at leadership, about your leadership philosophy? So what does Antonio look like? How does Antonio lead in a couple of years in the next iteration?
I think that's a great question. And I would say there's some things that I will not compromise at all. I think servant leadership has to be a primary thing all the time. I tell my team that although I report to the CEO, I work for my team. If I get goals, they are successful. If I don't do my job towards them, we fail. I fail. And in terms of the other non-compromise, it will be the transformational leadership. We have to look at ourselves, our business as a constant change. And if we stay the same, we're gonna fail. We need to. I mean, if you talk about AI, nobody talked about AI a year ago, 2 years ago. Now it's every conversation, right?
Right.
So how do they keep these things? In terms of personal, again, I need to work more on the work-life balance. If you ask me in 5 years what I have accomplished, I hope that I can turn around and tell you I accomplished that a group of people who work in my organization are running their own organizations. That I have put enough attention to their development, and I have done enough things for them, so now they can go to the next generation. And that's the other part that I'm very into is supporting the educational process. And we truly believe in that. My wife and I went back to our alma mater and we established a scholarship to help people in computer science. It's a small one, but it's a little bit of we can do to help somebody. And I want to keep developing that scholarship process and continue growing that. So the advantage is that my father, who worked from dawn to dusk, and from my mother, who was a stay-at-home mom, but she was the backbone of the family, and when my in-laws, who also were blue-collar and hard-working people, all the advantages, because they work so hard to give us some advantages, if we can give that to other people, we already try and give it to our children, but if we can extend that to the next level, to the next generation, I think it will be a good career at the end.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to pass it on to the next generation, and as a scholarship or something like that. That's awesome. Thank you. One last question, Antonio, and then we'll wrap it up. When you look at your own experience and you see what other leaders in technology are doing, what do you think is something that most others are missing? What is something that many other leaders are not seeing, or it's not clear to them?
That's a very interesting question. I'm part of the Houston community of CIOs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known a lot of these people, some of them for more than 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of my support ecosystem. And we share a lot of our experiences. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have as CIOs and what I've seen in there is that we're not 100% united as the whole ecosystem in supporting next generations. I think we're missing the point in some cases. And I think, part of that is one of the nonprofits that I work with, we do a lot of emphasis in the next generation, but you don't see it across. Another thing that I think is important, I don't know how they do in their teams, but to me that is very important is, and I'm going to touch on diversity. And we're not talking diversity of a skin color or religion. I'm talking about diversity of thinking. I'm talking about diversity of backgrounds, professional backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, anything that makes a person what they are today.
Yep.
I'm very blessed in my team to have people who come from the business, people who come from different countries, people who speak different languages. We have a true mix. So when we look at a problem, we don't look at a problem from one angle. We look at the problem from every single angle, and that enriches the whole organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned at the very beginning the 2 CIO 100 awards. Those 2 awards on innovation and technology came because the team listened to what our customers, partners were asking for, and with this difference of backgrounds, we're able to put all these solutions together. That gladly was recognized by a very important publication, but most importantly is recognized by the hospitals and that we serve. At the end of the day, and closing the circle here with my son, we provide medical equipment to hospitals. The end of the supply chain is a patient in need.
Right.
And my son spent 4.5 months in the neonatal ICU at Texas Children's, so he was using that equipment that we bring today. So
I didn't connect that before, of course. Yeah, of course.
It's extremely important that the job we do is always focusing on the final step of our supply chain.
Yep.
It's not an item, it's not a number. It's a human being need.
Yep.
And that's the driving force.
Yep. Antonio, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all you shared there. What will really stick with me is the profoundness of the stories that you shared and the different experience that's in there, and how much you really got out of that and how much you brought this to your own leadership. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Antonio.
It's been a pleasure having this conversation. I hope that in some way, a little bit of some way, it helps someone. And hopefully this 30 plus years of career was not for nothing.
No doubt, Antonio. Thank you so much. For everyone else out there, it's a wrap for today. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe to us so that you're on top of the next videos when we come again with our next interview, with our next episode of the Top Innovator Series. Until then, keep all your brain cells active.